Hey everybody, it's Henry with Lighthouse Wealth Management. And in this quick video, it being traveling season and a lot of people taking vacations or planning vacations perhaps for the fall or early next year, there was an interesting annual survey by Deutsche Bank on the world's most expensive cities, but they also did a breakdown in particular areas of the expense, whether it's food or having a beer or a cappuccino and so forth. So whether you're going to Hawaii or the land of Swiss Army knife, Switzerland, I thought it'd be interesting to cover some of this in a little bit of a spreadsheet of the 15 most expensive cities and the 15 least expensive cities in a number of categories that it might help you when you're planning a trip or looking at what the cost of a trip might be. So let's jump over and get onto my desktop and have a look at the data. So welcome to my desktop. I have an Excel spreadsheet I put together with the data from the Deutsche Bank annual survey of world prices by cities. So the first thing we're going to look at is weekend getaway. And what we want to look at before we even get into that is how did they define a weekend getaway? And that's in this little box right here, defined as 2 nights at a 5-star hotel, 2 pub meals, 2 restaurant dinners for 2, car rental for 2 days, 2 pints of beer, 4 liters of water or soda, and shopping for jeans and sneakers. So we can see these are all relative to New York City. Okay, so if you've ever been in New York, it's an expensive place, but Milan is 166% more expensive than a weekend getaway to New York City. And you can see New York City, I put in red on any of the charts where it shows up. So we have the most expensive cities, Milan, Copenhagen, Zurich, and then I also put in the weekend getaway index, the least expensive cities on their list. So we had Istanbul at number 51. And the reason I did that is that, if you are planning trips and you're like, well, are there some, we'll call value-oriented cities, unless you're really dead set on going to Milan, but if you're looking to go to Europe, places like Berlin are significantly cheaper than, and Lisbon, Portugal, are significantly cheaper than New York City. So then let's move forward to a cheap date. Cheap date is 2 cab rides, dinner, lunch for 2 at a pub, soft drinks, 2 movie tickets, a couple of beers. We have Zurich coming in at 142% more expensive than New York City. But not too many cities, big cities around the world, are more expensive than New York City. And jumping over to least expensive side, again, if you wanted to go to Europe, you could go to places like Prague, Warsaw, which are significantly cheaper than New York City. And then we can move to dinner. This is, again, Deutsche Bank went to this website, expatistan.com. We're looking at dinner for 2 at a pub. Again, Zurich tops that list, but again, it's 32% more than New York City. But there's a fair number of cities where you can go out to eat. Again, pub that's less expensive than New York City. Not too many in Europe in the bottom of that list. But Prague and Warsaw, again, show up there. So where is beer expensive? Relative to New York, Dubai, Oslo, Copenhagen. But then, obviously, again, Prague, Warsaw, Istanbul, Berlin, much cheaper than New York City. And then for a lot of people, their lifeblood, in this case, cappuccino or coffee, Copenhagen rings in at 125% more expensive than New York City. But as you might expect, Milan and Rome are significantly cheaper, where it's cappuccino, so you would expect you're going to pay a little bit less there. Because that is an institution in Italy. And then we look at car. What does it cost to rent a car? In London, it's 120% more. I don't know that anybody would want to rent a car in any of these cities. Jakarta, Hong Kong, I've been to quite a few of these places. Cairo, I would definitely not rent a car. Paris, Milan, they're very hectic places. But you're going to pay more to rent a car there. And then, again, you have places like Lisbon, Toronto, Frankfurt, Sydney. Much more easy to navigate and a lot cheaper than New York City. And then lastly, what do you pay for gasoline? This is based on a liter of petrol or a quarter of a gallon. You pay 255% more than New York City and Hong Kong. As you can see, a lot of the European countries, Europe is very expensive for gasoline. And then again, you have places like Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia and Cairo. So again, I just wanted to put this together because I thought it was very interesting. Deutsche Bank puts it out once a year, and it being traveling season, thought some people might get some use from this. So probably not a whole lot of surprises in the list for most people. For me, I've traveled pretty extensively throughout the world. A couple things that surprised me on the list, or things that were not on the list, were places like Hawaii, Honolulu, places like Reykjavik in Iceland, which I was in last year. A lot of people say it's very expensive, and it is expensive, but it was not even on the list that I was looking at from Deutsche Bank, which would let me know as a traveler that Reykjavik perhaps isn't quite as expensive as a lot of people make it out to be. So if you want a copy of the report, feel free to email me at the office, and I can always forward it on to you via email. It's a PDF file. So again, safe travels to everybody this summer, and if you have any questions or issues, let me know.